So next we have Felix Kramer. He's with the Foundation for Climate Restoration. He's an entrepreneur, activist, and writer. His website, Climate Changes Everything, introduces hopeful projects and tells stories of people through light bulb idea moments. Felix Kramer.
I'm very glad to be here, and I'm a big fan of the Alamedans and all the others who helped make this event happen. I'm a strategic advisor to the Healthy Climate Alliance and the Foundation for Climate Restoration, and you'll hear more about them from Elon later today. My website, climatechangeseverything.org, tells a story of people making climate change restoration their goal and the projects they're working on. In this presentation, you'll find most of it there. I'm an ex-entrepreneur, fortunate to have been able to be a volunteer full-time, first on clean tech and then on climate change awareness and solutions. So today's event, plus resources like the Carbon 180 Slack, which I hope you know about and will join, are ways to build a climate restoration community and to collaborate. And when people like us get together, when we get hopeful and inspired, we can make amazing things happen. This is a directory of projects, companies, startups, and campaigns for climate restoration and global warming reversal. And I started this directory to help people in the Bay Area work together on climate projects that I think can attract the whole world's attention. And that's the connection to the 2020 election. So I had a little fun. I was thinking, what t-shirt should I wear today about climate restoration? We don't have them yet, and we need people to do them. But I went back and came up with a bunch of t-shirts that tell my story a little bit. So 1978, 41 years ago, I ran the New York events for this sequel to Earth Day. Okay. This t-shirt is called Petricide, and it's what fueled me and a lot of other people to start thinking about getting off fossil fuels. I started the California Cars Initiative to get car makers to build plug-in hybrids. And at first, we said, I want to get 100 plus miles per gallon. Took a while, but we hacked Priuses, and then we started driving around, and they said, this car gets 100 plus miles per gallon. And the t-shirt says, I get 100 plus miles per gallon. And then we got the Chevy Volt and a lot of other plug-in hybrids. So in the middle of this whole thing, we realized that it was all about climate. It was about rising temperatures. And electric cars at that point showed we had all the technology we needed to get off oil. And we inspired people to work on climate change. And then along came this book. And as David talked about it, it popularized going beyond switching to renewables to actually reversing global warming. The first mass market book that talked about reversing global warming. And I have 5 copies I'm happy to sell at cost for $16 to anybody here. Philanthropists gave some money to reduce the price in half, and that book has been a bestseller all over the world. It's been translated in a bunch of languages. And now we're in a new world. Sunrise movement, and switch it around. We have good jobs and what does it say there? And a livable future. People are starting to talk about what we really want in our future. And it's a new world. And it's being led by people like Greta Thunberg and AOC and the Sunrise movement. And by Bay activists like Isha Clark. Maybe you saw her politely debating with Senator Feinstein. She's from a Bay Area group called Youth versus Apocalypse that 350 Bay Area took under its wing. And there's other Bay Area groups. And then the last one. So already, 2020 is shaping up to be a climate election. Woo! So a lot of news stories about whether we're actually going to have a climate debate. Governor Jay Inslee decided to run about climate change, and he's the person who started to bring this idea of a climate debate into the mainstream. And there's a real campaign going on about it. And that campaign's picking up steam. So what can you do about that? Of course, you can sign the petition, join a couple 100,000 people doing that. You can consider going to Detroit for the second debates. You can talk with everybody you know about climate and about having climate debate. And you consider helping our briefing project. So we talked with the Jay Inslee campaign. And we've already had an impact on his campaign. You can read about it on the website. And that gave us an idea. We can help build momentum for a debate and get people excited about different topics for a debate. We can invite the policy staffers from all the campaigns to come to the Bay Area and hear from us, people in carbon tech, drawdown, and climate restoration, about the exciting ideas, and they can go back and tell people about what's going on. And we can also have a fundraiser for those policy people to act as surrogates in the Bay Area for their campaigns. How much time do I have?
You got 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. So here are the climate group's scorecards. They rate candidates on getting off fossil fuels and reducing fossil fuel contributions. Their campaigns are based on staying under 1.5. Is that a world you want to live on? And we're missing a slide here, unfortunately, and that's a slide where the New York Times asked candidates, can the next president stop global warming? 21 candidates answered. A couple of them answered it. One of them said no. A couple of them sort of fudged. Most of them just talked about what they're doing. But that's an amazing question to ask. Have you ever heard a reporter ask, can we stop global warming? And that gives us our opportunity. We could say in 2 terms, a president can begin to stop climate change, not just slow it down. So how about a new scorecard? This one matches up to what we're doing. That can get candidates talking about a safe and healthy world. And finally, a help wanted ad. Busy climate entrepreneurs and advocates like us, we need help. We want to create a new job category, personal climate associate, and we want to become climate restoration mentors to people. Here's how it will work. You or someone you know is a few years into your career, stuck in a job that doesn't have anything to do with what you care about most. You can start to work on the climate. You can get plugged into mentors networks and projects at a high level. You'll split your time between me and a wealthier climate entrepreneur and advocate. You'll help both of us extend our reach and raise our levels of activity. I'm in Berkeley, my partner's in Palo Alto. I need help on social media, crowdfunding, and networking. So, after a decade feeling isolated, full of dread and apocalyptic, a year ago, I woke up and said, maybe we're not doomed. And that was really an important emotional moment for me. And I hope tomorrow you can too. So I wonder if just get a sense, are there people here who would raise their hands if you're interested in working on connecting our group here, the organizations in the Bay Area, to help make a briefing and invite presidential candidates? Or are you interested in, or do you know somebody who might want to be a personal climate associate? Okay, that's about half the audience, so that's fantastic. So thank you very much. Q&A. We have time for questions. 2 minutes. 2 minutes for questions. Thank you, Warren, for making this happen.
You're welcome. So I'm wondering what we can do. Could you talk a little bit more about, there's a little bit of a movement to have a briefing for climate candidates or their staff, at least, that we have a place, and, how can we make that happen, and, where do we sign up to get that going?
So you can find a little about it at Climate Changes Everything, and you can connect with me. We actually have 2 locations where we could have individual fundraisers the night before and the night after a briefing, and the spectacular locations. And this would be like 20, 30, 50 supporters of an individual candidate who care about climate and want to hear from that candidate's climate advisor. They want them to come to the briefing. They want that policy person to hear from us, our thoughts, and maybe they will represent the candidate as well. That's be up to the campaign. And then as far as the briefing itself, we think we can have it at the I'm blanking on it, name, the Disability Campus in Berkeley, right near Ashby Bart, and
Ed Roberts.
Ed Roberts campus. And so we think we can make this happen if we get a few people working on it. Okay.
Last question.
Are you working on, and maybe you want to work with others on a list of policy suggestions, and do you have like a list that you might want to present to the candidates?
Hear that.
Repeat the question, please.
Do you have a list of like key policies that you want to present to the candidates, and also are you creating a group that can be kind of more open source these policy suggestions?
We're in a process where we're reaching out to different candidates' policy advisors, and we're telling them about reversing global warming, removing carbon, and restoring a healthy climate. And we're saying you can start talking to your audiences with much more inspiring and hopeful goals, and you can do it partly by telling the story of what people in the Bay Area are getting started. So that's where we are on that. We're at different stages with many different candidates at this point, and we need help on that too.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you so much, Felix Kramer.